Hi everyone, welcome to the ONET Vocational Personality Inventory. This is an inventory whose purpose is to help you identify the type of work environments and the nature of the tasks that you might enjoy both in your jobs in the near future as well as in your careers later on. Now, this inventory was created by one of the most famous career counselors of all time, and it was started about 65 years ago. This gentleman's name was John Holland, and he believed that there were 6 basic personality types in the workplace, and all of us tend to have preferences in a few of these, but not all areas. So the 6 vocational personality types that he identified have the acronym of RIASEC, and each of those stands for a different personality type. R being realistic. So realistic vocational personality types tend to like to do a lot of work with their hands. So when they're working, they like to be physically involved. These types of people tend to do work like tradespeople, so carpentry, construction, electrician, etc. They also tend to be technicians, using machines to operate various equipment. Sometimes they're also things like surgeons who like to use different aspects of their personality, but also like to work with their hands. So that's R, realistic. Investigative is the I, and investigative personality types tend to really like to dig in and ask deep and important questions that are difficult to solve. So they're problem solvers, and they like to tend to like to focus on kind of one problem. They like to really zero in and focus on one thing. And these types of personalities tend to trend towards things like engineering, in some cases medicine, as well as psychology or scientists. The A stands for artistic. The artistic personality type tends to be more creative. So they don't mean artistry in the traditional sense of song or visual arts or theater or painting, etc. What they mean is people who are really creative like to do their own thing. They like to be original, be unique in all that they do. So the types of personalities that usually we can find when we look at creative personality types in the workplace, they tend to be sometimes artists, often entrepreneurs as well, people that don't tend to have a 9-to-5 schedule. They like to work at their own pace. Doesn't mean that they work less. They just like to be able to go at their own rhythm, be unique and original. So that's A, artistic personality type. The S stands for social personality type, and contrary to what it might sound like, this doesn't necessarily mean people that always like to be around others. It doesn't mean that they're extroverted by nature. It means that they really like to help other people. So social personality type equals helpers. So these are people that gain a lot of satisfaction by being able to see the impact that they're having on other people around them in their immediate surroundings. So these people tend to move towards careers in nursing, in teaching, in psychology, social work, those kinds of situations where you're helping other people manage either the best parts or sometimes the difficult parts of their lives on a regular basis. So that's the social personality type. The enterprising personality type, which is the E, are your more traditional kind of business people. In a sense, these are people who don't mind taking risks, who like to lead, and who, generally speaking, like to work in a business environment. And they're people that tend to be a little bit more extroverted and like to be around a lot of other people. So they're comfortable speaking in public, and as I mentioned, taking risks. So they tend to trend more towards business-related entities and types of work, and usually more often than not in larger organizations. And the last vocational personality, which is C, for conventional personality types, are those who really like to accomplish a lot of tasks. They like structure, they like routine. It's more the kind of 9-to-5 vocational personality type as compared to the creative people, the artistic people who like to have a little bit more of a random schedule. Conventional people really like to know what their objectives are at work. They like to accomplish those objectives and be very structured in the way that they work. So these people often tend to move towards careers in administration or in management or things like event planning, where things tend to be fairly laid out in front of you and you have to accomplish a series of goals to create the final product. So there it is, a RIASEC, realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. Those are the 6 basic vocational personality types as defined by John Holland. And it's important to remember when you're doing this inventory, which is meant to help you identify your top 2 or 3 vocational personality preferences. It's important to remember that there's a lot of examples probably that you haven't experienced before when you're completing it because you're simply too young. You haven't experienced some of the things that they'll have as examples. That's okay. Just try to imagine how you'd feel about those different activities as you're completing them. So the goal here for the test is to identify your top 2 or 3 vocational personality interests and to try to move towards jobs and then later on towards careers that allow you to work in that environment and accomplish those types of tasks. Now, one note I will mention is that when you complete the inventory, it'll give you a list of jobs that may be related to you in your field based on the answers that you gave. I would avoid those answers. Don't put too much stock in them because they're quite outdated, and in many cases, they're not really an accurate reflection of the person. In my case, the top 2 careers that were suggested were hairdresser and flight attendant, and I've never had any interest in either of those professions. But I understand that based on my personality type, they're suggested because it involves working with people, helping others, and playing a leadership role in a lot of cases. So that leads me to my own vocational personality type, which is ESA, enterprising, social, and artistic. And I only completed these assessments a little bit later on in my life after I'd kind of found my way in my career, and it's incredible to do because I get the same results every time. I've probably taken this test 10, 15 times. I get the same results every time, which is important to show consistency like that, and it shows that the results are actually very meaningful. It's also really fascinating because that vocational personality definition fits me to a T. So the first is enterprising. So I really like to take risks. I like to lead. I like to be around people. I'm very extroverted. And I don't necessarily, though, like everything about traditional business. And that's where the second Holland code, the S, social, comes into play because I've always loved helping other people. And that gives me a really, really great sense of satisfaction in the work that I do. So the combination of the E, the enterprising, and the S, the social, really melds well into what I do now, which is complemented by my last letter, which is A, artistic. And so I like to take risks, I like to lead people, I like to be involved in business, but I also want to be helping people directly when I'm doing that business, when I'm running it. And I'm very creative. I like to do things differently. I always have. I always wore different clothes, and I always did things my own way and developed my own opinions. It was always very important to me to be unique as I grew up. And that's translated now into my career as well, because I could have done work for a number of organizations, but I really get the most satisfaction having created my own business. So I'm an entrepreneur, and that allows me the flexibility and creativity to do things that I really want to do, which is even more satisfying for me in the long run. So that's a wrap. Enjoy the test, and I want to leave you with a reminder that this is not a test. This is an assessment or a questionnaire, and it's really just the first step in the process of you moving towards your own significance. So have fun, enjoy the journey. Take care for now.